Hi guys, in this video we're going to be looking at the full kind of baking pipeline. We're going to be looking at this on a cube. We're going to look at it with multiple objects as well. It's going to be a bit of a longer video, but it will take you through the full process. So this is what you can apply to your own models and make sure you've got everything set up technically, because sometimes you get a lot of technical issues. So the first thing I am going to do is I am going to make a cube here. I am going to duplicate this cube, and I am going to scale it down and have it on the top here. So this is going to be my model that I'm going to work. This is my low poly model here. So it's two objects, and it's fine to have those as two objects. I'm just going to open up my outliner over here so you can see that these two objects are here. I'm going to press Control and G, and that is going to group them together. So now I've actually got this cube here, and then there is the group node itself that's got both of them on, so I can move both of them at the same time. So I'm going to leave that there for now, and I am going to duplicate this group and move this over here. I'm also just going to put a an edge loop down the middle of this here, which is just going to make some things a little bit easier for me later. I don't necessarily need that as such, but I'm going to use it for something a little bit later. Okay, so I've got my low poly and my high poly. So let's, the first thing I need to have done is actually, I need to have my UVs done. So I'm just going to go over to my UV editing window over here. I've got both of them selected. I am going to unwrap them. I'm just going to do an automatic on this. And then I am going to select both cubes, so they should both be here, and I am going to run a let's have a little look. I'm going to lay these out. Okay, so it puts them in. Now you might notice that they're all the same size at the moment, whereas one's bigger than the other. Therefore, I've got poor texel density here. And the reason for that is because the scale of these is not frozen to 1. So I'm going to select both of them, right click on the word scale, freeze scale. So this is my channel box. It's the far right one at the top up here. They have now got their scale frozen. You'll now find that if I hit this layout button, I've now got my small cube here, and then my big cube is over here now. So I've got my UVs sorted. It is so important that you have the scale at 1 for all of your objects, for everything, for UV unwrapping, for texturing, everything. It's so important your scale is always 1. Okay, having some transform information is fine. So let's make our high poly mesh. I'm also going to show you how you can bevel hard edges, so these sort of harsh edges here. This is the main thing I'm going to do with my model here. So I'm going to select both of these, and I'm going to bevel, and I'm going to put a really tight bevel on these, 0.05 I think. And I am going to increase the segments. You'll actually notice that this one isn't responding. I should be able to click on it in a second, select that, 0.05 in the fraction, and increase the segments to 12. So I'm going to bevel these hard edges here, so they're going to look a little softer. So this information is going to bake onto this one over here. I'm just going to make a little rivet now. So I'm going to make a cylinder. I'm going to go down to my cylinder input here, and I'm just going to take the radius down to 6, and I'm going to make a little rivet. Let's flatten that here, go in, I'm going to select the top faces. Okay, and I'm going to start extruding. Now I'm going to hold shift. You can see extrude appears, so I'm on my scale tool here. Hold shift, scale that in, hold shift, extrude. Go back to my scale, hold shift to go inwards, go back to W, hold shift, move down. Hold shift again, scale that inwards, and hold shift and pull out. Okay, now I am going to bevel this rivet. I'm going to bevel all of these edges here. So all of like the corner edges, might as well do that one as well. And then I'm going to do the outside ones as well. Same on the inside. That one didn't work. Okay, got all of those now. and this one here. So I'm just going to run a bevel on these as well. 0.25 segments, take that up to 12. So what I've got, it's on 11. That's going to be fine for now. Now I've got this sort of nice hard looking thing here that I can scale down, and I can duplicate this across my model. Okay, so I'm just going to move this into position here. Okay, now I'm going to just put them on this face. Just going to put them a bit wonky all over the shop. Okay, so now I've got a few of these on here. Cool. Now these are going to be baking onto this mesh, okay, which is this part here, but they're separate objects at the moment. Now that's not good. So I am going to select everything here and I'm going to combine them together, mesh combine. And the reason I'm doing that is so that it's just the one object. Okay, it's one object rather than multiple. So this one object is going to bake onto this one object. So you need to think of your objects in parts. My mesh has 2 parts, so my high poly needs to have 2 parts as well. So if these are going to be baked onto this part, I am going to combine them on. So I've got the same number of parts there. Okay, fantastic. So now I need to perfectly overlap these together. Okay, now let's go back to classic view. And I could have a look at my numbers, and you'll notice that because I've combined them together, they have got reset over here, so I can't zero them out. So that's going to be a little bit of an issue. I am going to parent this to this so that that stays in the same place and it moves with this one. And you'll notice I put this line in earlier. I'm going to do the same thing again across here. So edge. Select down the middle there, and let's run a connect. Okay, nice. So now what I'm going to do is I am going to move the pivot point of this object here. So I'm going to hold D down and snap it to this vertex. Now let's just zoom in and make sure I've got it on the right vertex there, because there's quite a lot of vertices. DV. Yep, it's on that one there. So now that should be, if I hold D and snap, if I just move the whole thing, so everything's moving together, so that's why I parented it. If I hold V and now snap it in line with this one, they should perfectly overlap. So that flat face there, I've snapped it in line with this vertex here on this axis. Okay, nice. I now want all the pivot points to be the same, because I've got the pivot point of this big one is up here, and the pivot point of this one is actually in the center. So I'm going to grab everything. I'm actually going to unparent this. So just let's just select both of these, the high poly ones, just group them together into a new group on their own. And I'm going to select everything, hold D, hold X this time, and put the pivot point to 0, 0, 0. That looks good there. So now the pivot point of everything is in line. Okay, lots of these things here can just get deleted. I'm going to delete the history. We should be doing this regularly anyway. Okay, nice. So now I need to make sure that my transforms are frozen. Okay, so I'm going to freeze the transforms of everything. You'll notice that this one now has some odd transforms on, so it's easier just to kind of freeze everything. So this time I'm going to freeze all. So I've selected absolutely everything you can see on the left-hand side there. Then I'm going to freeze all. So now everything is 0, 0, 0, 0, 0. And this should let me bake nice and evenly. Okay, so I've got my transforms frozen. That's super important. I'm now going to start naming things, and I need to have the same thing on each. So we have this cube here. So this is my top cube underscore low. So let's find the same thing on the other one. So that's that one. Top cube underscore high. So the names need to be the same, but the suffix is different. So then we've got bottom cube underscore high. You could copy and paste your names if you wish. Rename this one bottom cube underscore low. So now you can, I'm then going to actually rename the groups as well. I'm just going to call this cube mesh underscore low. Copy that and paste that over here. Cube mesh underscore high. So now everything's named. So I've got a low version and I've got a high version here. Everything's 0, 0, 0. The pivot points are the same on everything, which is really, really useful for me there. Okay, so I've got everything named. Last little thing I'm gonna check is my materials. So I'm going to make sure that I have just one material applied to this, so one material group. So I'm just going to make a blin, and I am going to select everything here, right click and assign it to that, and then I'm just going to rename this blin that's applied here. Let's have a look in the attributes. Blin, let's just rename that cube mesh matte. So now when I bring it into Substance Painter, I should see that name in Substance Painter. So I've got one UV layout, so everything's under one UV, therefore I need to have one material, otherwise I am wasting texture space, and I will spit out multiple texture sets from Substance Painter that I don't want. It's all on one UV, therefore I have one material. If you've got multiple UVs, so if this box down here was laid out differently to the top one, then I'd use two different materials for those. Okay, great. So now I am going to export both of these, and I'm going to do the baking part in Substance Painter. I'm going to do this in a separate video so that it's not too long, so it's going to be a two-part kind of series. So in this video I've covered kind of creating a high poly mesh, I've covered kind of organizing your things in the outline and making sure everything's named, making sure my UV sets are correct, making sure that my transforms are frozen, and making sure the pivot points are the same. We need to make sure all these things are true, otherwise we're going to get loads of baking errors and we don't want that. Okay, all right, thanks for your time, guys.